goes out to the drifters and all other dreamers ready to fly. On the wannabe rock stars, looking at guitars, painting the sky. All the wannabe rock stars, lifting the guitars, painting the sky high. This goes out to the lifters, and all of the dreamers, ready to fly. All the wannabe rock stars, lifting the guitars, painting the sky high. I usually don't play any songs on here because if I play a song from anybody, YouTube and Instagram will block the file. But I don't really care. I'm going to put it on my website if they do that. I might put it on my website anyway. And I'm going to broadcast live on Facebook and Twitter right now. And it's going to be heard. Whether they allow it to stay up on YouTube or Instagram or not, I don't know. It's 4 a.m. Sunday morning. This is Fox News.
Street fighting is raging through Ukraine's second largest city as Ukrainian oil and gas facilities burn overnight after becoming targets of Putin's forces. You're watching another special breaking news edition of Fox and Friends First here on your Sunday morning. I'm Todd Tyler. And I'm Carla Shimkus. The Pentagon says Putin is fuming that the invasion has been stalled by the Ukrainian resistance. Mike Tobin is live in Lviv. We're on that. Plus, Ryan Dennis and Rich Hudson are standing by with the White House and NATO response. But first, we begin, as we always do, with Steve Harrigan live on the ground in Kyiv as the city residents wake up in bomb shelter. Steve, what do you see at this point?
Not for the first time, we are seeing artillery shells fall within 2 miles of the city center here in Kiev. We've seen probably 6 or 7 shells in the past hour or so. They hit in
11 a.m. in Ukraine.
areas, and then we've seen large black clouds of smoke rise up. Overnight, we heard 2 loud explosions. One of them, an oil depot.
God, this guy can stand to eat a salad.
Military base about 20 miles outside the city. It burned with an orange glow through a good part of the night. And this Russian advance into the capital has been slow. The real question is that going to mean more firepower from the Russians, more artillery fire to pave the way for their infantry? And as you mentioned, in the second largest city in Ukraine, Kharkiv, fighting there is intense. It's street fighting also there. A gas pipeline has blown up as they are fighting for control of that city. Finally, peace talks between Belarus scheduled to be held in Belarus. The Russians say their delegation has already arrived there. They're waiting for the Ukrainians. Ukraine says we're open to peace talks, but just not in Belarus. We're not going to have peace talks in a country in which we're now being attacked. Now it's back to you.
Steve, we were just showing images of that fire at the oil depot. To your knowledge, has that been put out?
They keep showing these ugly, dumb, gold, pointy churches in Kiev.
Toxic fumes all over the place. So real
God, what a fucking eyesore.
From the fighting as well.
Steve, we have seen reports coming in of not just gas facilities being attacked, but hospitals, a children's cancer center, apartments.
Ukraine rejects Belarus as peace talk location.
Russia just a really bad aim?
This is Carly Shimkus and Todd Piro. I don't know who this representative is talking right now. Steve Harrigan. There we go.
And I think the problem is, if they're delayed and they're frustrated and they want to move in and take this capital, they still don't have it yet, we could
could happen. News is what did happen.
Or is this sort of the normal level of violence that you've been experiencing over the past few days?
No, this is not normal. We haven't seen artillery shells hit this close to the center. It looks like it's the start of something that could be bigger.
That is the big fear. Stay safe. We'll check back in with you very, very soon. Right now, Western Ukraine, where many residents are hoping to avoid the horrors of war. Putin expresses frustration at a lack of progress in Kiev.
Mike Tobin live in the vehicle. Still bracing for an attack, Mike. And the Florida Morning since the invasion of Florida refugees continue through and around the city of Lviv. The road to the
Mike
Polish
Tobin.
border is now backed up for some 30 miles. Refugees are trying to get to
I follow this guy on Twitter. He's been into all kinds of wars, foreign wars, apparently.
People who just abandoned their cars and started walking with their luggage. Families have separated.
I was telling the guy from CNN they should embed him with the troops. They embedded, remember that the Iraq War, they embedded some reporters and it was pretty awesome. Saying from their perspective.
And the Russians are getting very upset from the situation, and they will get more and more upset. And I think that this is going to get worse for the people who lives in Ukraine.
Really, since 2014, Ukrainians have been leaving for the neighboring countries. So you have a lot of Ukrainians.
Kiev remains under Ukrainian control. People are saying this is taking a long time for Russia to beat Ukraine, to take over Ukraine. But I'm not sure if that's true. For one, I don't think Russia cares about anybody's timetable, or that anybody says or thinks about the speed of their aggression. But I think that they've got I think they have a plan, and we don't know what that plan is totally. And they want to hit some sites and do certain things, and they're slowly but surely doing it. I think if they really, truly did see Putin furious over Ukrainian resistance, if the Ukrainians truly are putting up a surprisingly tough fight, then maybe they've got other soldiers fighting with them, you know. There's all kinds of contractors fighting around the entire world. You can pay for a militia to fight a war for you. They're contractors. It's happened in Afghanistan, happened in Iraq. You know, look it up on the internet if you've never heard of it. But they're guns for hire. They're people that, it's like a corporation. And they've been doing that for at least a decade or two. So if Ukraine is truly having fighting way, way over their head, I mean, it's not by magic. Because they've got the firepower and they've got the manpower and woman power. I heard there's a grandma fan. So yeah, I don't think we're getting the whole story, because I don't think a grandma can really fend off the Russians. No offense to grandmas. Chad Rochelle, U.S. Marine veteran. Russian invasion routes, seizure of Ukraine. Oh, they just showed a map and now they're showing smoke and fire.
Those sanctions are coming down, Chad, and they still don't affect the energy industry at all. So that flow of money between the U.S. and Russia is still continuing, which is wild to think about. I want to get back to some of the questions, the military questions, come into your military perspective. We're hearing that letter from saying about a quick lightning strike, and we're now in day 4 of this fighting. How long is too long until Russian troops get bogged down in Ukraine?
Wonder why she said that about sanctions haven't affected the energy sector. Why does that matter? Why do sanctions need to affect the energy sector? Russian forces bomb Ukrainian oil depot gas line.
I think he thought he would just topple the leadership of Ukraine overnight. But what's happening is
Grandma's got it.
warm themselves. They're rallying and fighting. And you're also seeing something that I think suspected was just
really just a lack of motivation with the Russian troops. We're seeing I've seen lots of videos, and they wonder now that Russian troops is not going to be there. The motivation doesn't seem to be the same as the Ukrainian fighters, and that's something you see in the battlefield.
I imagine a long war would benefit Ukraine because Russia's got to have supply lines, and they may need to replenish their troops. And Ukraine is getting more and more support as the days wear on. The UK just pledged all kinds of money to them, and so did Slovakia, and not just money too, but like gas. People are giving them gasoline and jet fuel and money and just arms and just all kinds of things. The U.S. is giving them millions and millions of dollars too. I still would not put this past Vladimir Putin and President Zelensky actually being in cahoots to try to milk this. I doubt it's really happening. I don't think those two guys really know each other or like each other, but anything is possible. And that's why I wrote a story recently about Zelensky just asking for 10 Black Hawk helicopters. I mean, think about it. If Russia doesn't suffer too much from this, and if they get the hell out of there before too long, or change their path, Ukraine's already gotten a windfall of money, support, and pledges. I think they might want them in the EU now. They might want them in NATO now, all these things. So, see, Russia didn't want them in NATO. I think that's one thing that we can rely on. But that doesn't change everything. So Zelensky could be just a mole, Russia a pawn, or there could be other Russians that are in the government in Ukraine that are pulling strings. Or, he could be getting a kickback from Ukraine, from all these things that they're obtaining from world leaders around the world. I don't trust any of these people. And there's obviously things that we don't know that are going on. And we have to realize the people that are terrible actors that couldn't act are being fooled, and their pawns being played by other people.
I mean, we're seeing bus drivers and school teachers and women and moms picking up arms, and they've been training for the last 2 days. There's one interview. When did you learn how to hold your first fire rifle? 2 days ago. She's willing to go out and fight. They're willing to die for freedom. And it's hard to fight something like that. And the Russians are learning it from us right now. We thought this was going to be easy. They would give up. We thought on top of the capital, on top of the leadership. And it's just not going to happen that way.
It is absolutely remarkable to watch. Means actually North Korea firing missiles toward the Sea of Japan as all this is going on in Ukraine. Is this just a toddler seeking attention when the world isn't paying attention to it? Or are you legitimately concerned about this?
North Korea fires missiles towards the Sea of Japan. They've been doing that for years. There's millions of veterans. I don't know why they're giving this guy so much airtime.
The leadership, lack of leadership that we're seeing from President Biden right now. He's made very bold decisions for months on this. The fall of Afghanistan, the debacle of Afghanistan, and now this. The bad actors in the world are so active, like North Korea, China, and Mexico.
America is making the world into a dangerous place. Chad, thank you so much for hopping on with us this morning. Great to see you. And as Russia's attack rages in the heart of Ukraine, the president says the impact of the sanctions may not be felt for some time.
And in an exclusive interview with Fox News, former President Trump says Joe Biden's perceived weakness could have
I don't care what Trump says. Jesus Christ. Why is this guy quoting Trump? Out of everybody this Todd Pirro moron can quote, he quotes Donald Trump? Oh my fucking God. God damn. I would rather hear from anybody besides Donald Trump. Jesus Christ. You know, I'm serious. Quote the Dalai Lama. Quote the Pope. Quote the President. Quote Marco Rubio, for God's sake. I don't know. But Donald Trump? God damn. This station and these people are such fucking idiots.
New sanctions directly impacting President Putin, but in an exclusive interview with Fox News Digital, former President Trump doubted their effectiveness.
Trump's idiots still talking about Trump. Oh God. Shut up. Just fucking retire, you ugly old fat dumb fuck. Jesus fucking Christ. This guy is such an asshole. He deceives so many people. And he's such a shitbag. What a disgusting, disgusting human being. And I know exactly how the Christian church fell for him too, because I was born and raised in the church. He is the pinnacle of what Christians aspire to be. A rich man that does whatever in the hell he wants. Conservative, hates Democrats, hates the liberal Democratic Party agenda. Gets away with murder. You guys are all fucking fools. Fuck you guys.
Frantic evacuations continue in Ukraine as the Russian military begins to enclose on major cities.
Our next guest has been working around the clock to help evacuate.
Donald Trump is a shitty businessman and he's a game show host. That's it. You got a president as a fluke. He got his ass kicked by Joe Biden. What did he lose by 7 million votes or something? He will never ever be president again. This is really a corrupt system in the United States because the people, the great people, the smart people, the admirable people, things like that, they never get heard. They never get influential jobs. You just keep hearing from morons and people that have money and people that are chosen by people that have money. More than 150,000 Ukrainians flee country.
Flying around Ukraine because you can't fly over Ukrainian airspace anymore. So what I'm hearing you say, Dale, is that there are going to be more
Flight Radar 24 showed all these planes going around Ukraine.
at a time when it's becoming more difficult to do so.
That's exactly right. So we've advised several of our clients in major cities that we anticipate over the next 5 to 7 days that our pace of exfiltration will slow greatly, just based on the threat, the traffic, the roadblocks, and the backups on the border. The Romanian border remains more efficient. It still takes 8 to 10 hours from the time you arrive to be processed. The Polish border is taking a day plus to get through. So yes, that risk on the ground combined with...
Yeah, in fact, I attended Liberty Baptist Theological Seminary. I just blogged about the 20 of the churches that I've attended. Most of them are mega churches. And it's absolutely unbelievable. I went to the seminary under Jerry Falwell, and then Jerry Jr. is the guy that endorsed Trump and let him come there and stuff. And then he's found out to be a creep, watching somebody have sex with his wife or whatever, and then he retires and quits. He's pushed out. That's not surprising. They never ever should have endorsed Trump like that. That was crazy. And if you really want to know how people think about him and the truth about him, look at the Republican presidential primary in 2015, 2016, when he ran and got the nomination. Listen to what Ted Cruz says about him, Marco Rubio says about him, Lindsey Graham says about him. All of them told the truth at one point in time. And since that time, he's proved himself to be a much, much worse person. 20,000 lies. is what the Washington Post reported him saying over his 4 years. Impeached twice. Just give me a break. Guy's a bottom feeder. As a bad person, a terrible leader, and we should never ever listen to Donald Trump again. It's his fault that COVID destroyed the country. Inflation, trace it back to COVID, and that was his fault as well. He was the absolute wrong leader to have in power when the pandemic hit. He disbanded Obama's task force in 2018, his pandemic preparation task force that he put together. So Trump he wasn't just neutral, he didn't just do nothing, he made it worse before it even started.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of doing what you were doing to help.
And then listen to what he said after it hit. He said it would just go away on its own, and it was just so slow to act. It was already around the country before anything could happen. Less than 5,000 people died in China. And that fact has been way underplayed and undermentioned. He was originated in China. So they knew what they were doing. They did the right thing. They took care of it in the best way. The U.S. took care of it in the worst way. Democrats are to blame too. 25 Democrat governors, 25 Republican governors. The executive branch, they made all kinds of mandates and things piecemeal one at a time for COVID, and the mayors.
Second largest city of Kharkiv, a Ukrainian oil depot and gas line, also the target of Russian missiles overnight. Our next guest.
I've never laughed at another human being more than I've laughed at Donald Trump, and I just don't think that's a real good quality to have as a president. You know, I would think the person that I laugh the most at should probably be a comedian or something. Don't you think? So, I'm gonna go ahead and... This is a rad song. I'm not a woman, I'm a god. Halsey. Stay right here, 'cause no matter how long have my heart, I never wanna die. Fun song. And we still have a commercial on TV, so what can't I do? There's fun's on too at the outside. Haha. We're back.
With Ukraine in Belarus, but President Zelensky says he will not negotiate in the Russian-controlled country.
Rich Jensen live at the Pentagon with the very latest on this developing situation. Rich. Hey, good morning, Todd and Carly. And what we're looking at here is the Russian government saying it has a negotiating team in place in Belarus ready to talk. And the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he wants no part of those discussions. In a social
That makes sense because he was invaded from Belarus, and also Belarus is not in NATO. They're in Russia's war group, war organization, whatever you call it. I think it's called SCTA or something like that. It's their version of NATO, and there's about 4 or 5 little countries in it, and they go out and play their little war games. So I don't blame them. They should do it in Switzerland or Brussels or Vienna or Rome, or the U.S. somewhere. Belarus is a dumb place. Dumb place for the meeting to be.
Germany says it will send 1,000
Is there sort of a Russian puppet or a Russian sympathizer?
The world has to raise the cost to Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Now you pay later. The more successful
Doesn't seem very neutral.
Ukraine is against Russia, the more likely Putin is to go scorched earth. Never in the history of the world
This
has
is
a
funny.
bad guy been so exposed as Putin is right now.
So they quote Donald Trump like he's got something important to say, valuable to say, and then they quote Lindsey Graham that, I don't know, about 5, 6 years ago, basically called him absolute scum of the earth. I think the Republican Party is slowly kind of shifting away from Trump. I read Bill Maher's statistics about his popularity, and if he's right, it's shrunk a lot. Basically, it's halved. All of it halved among the small groups that he's popular with. About half as many people support him now.
That's right, and Sean joins us now. Sean, it's so good to see you safe in Poland. Tell us your journey. How did you get out of the country?
I mean, that could change either way. It could change for the better if you start spending a lot of money and they start promoting him more. Because these things do kind of wax and wane on purpose, I think. Because right now, it doesn't really matter how popular he is. It matters, if he's running for president. It matters when the primaries come. So in the days, weeks, months leading up to the primaries, which aren't for, I don't know, about 2 more years. It's not really going to matter. Of course, they don't want him like as unpopular as, a hernia. But I think he's going to be more valuable to them as a kingmaker that kind of anoints whoever the next candidate is. Because I don't think people are going to get into him. I think the primary will be very divided and we'll end up nominating somebody else.
I can't imagine. How is your family doing right now?
It was tiring, me and wife especially, taking the burden on ourselves. And she made a good point. She said,
And then I think that will finally be the end of Donald Trump. I think if he loses the presidential primary, in 2024. I don't think we'll hear from him much again.
She's 15 months old, and she thought it was a big road trip, but, smiling at everyone, so that's the best part. I think that she won't remember it is the stressful event for her. I mean, the rest of
I don't think at the end of the day, I don't think the Republican Party cares, because they know all these people have a lifespan, and they've got a long-term vision that they're working on. He's just the flavor of the month that lasted a few years.
The conversations that you had with Ukrainians, that they're hopeful that they will end up winning this war. What are they saying to you about how they're
I don't think he'll run for president in his 80s. And they should be quoting people like George Bush and like Bill Clinton and like Jimmy Carter. Those three guys are not going to be with us forever. Barack Obama. These ex-presidents have wisdom and insight, and they know this stuff. And if Fox News had a soul and a brain, they would talk to them and relate to us what those people are saying.
Marine embassy guards get trained in how they go about their job. I learned that you guys obviously are extremely tough, but you're also extremely intuitive and smart.
Because a lot of people are worried about this. A lot of people want guidance. They want to hear from people that have wisdom and insight, that have done this before, that know what they're doing, that have integrity, and that give a rip. And that's not Trump.
I'm watching bombs drop on the news, and I realized that's what the noise was, and I thought I was in the village outside the city. I thought I was safe, and then I literally saw the sky light up to my right. Just this, like see on the news, this big glowing orange light, and I thought, bomb getting to the side of the road, and my car's gonna fly off. And
guy's sickeningly selfish and self-centered. Everything is always about him.
Possible targets, and then it was just all adrenaline to get to my family in the week.
That must have been an unbelievable situation for you and your family that you're certainly never going to forget. There have been a few pro-Russian presidents in Ukraine, and it hasn't worked out well for them. So if Putin does capture Ukraine, how does he hold it in the face of what's definitely going to be a constant insurgency?
Yeah, I can understand what he was thinking. When I watched the speech, so I was on Fox News on the morning on Monday, and I watched the speech on Monday night, and I realized this guy doesn't even have a rational view of what Ukraine is now. Maybe 8 years ago, because of what happened in Crimea, with the last of the fight, he thought it was going to be the whole country going to get that. But I wouldn't start business on Facebook if I thought the country would give up in 2 seconds. I know they were going to show up. There's a lot of seconds here, so we got to let you go. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You're just waking up with us. We're going to check back in with our reporters on the ground in just a minute and look at Putin's invasion may not be according to plan.
Money Hungry Network, greed. And we're back on commercial time because they want money. Stan's Atlantic. Bonnie Fraser.
Russian troops inside Kharkiv, and street fighting is raging through Ukraine's second-largest city.
Ukrainian oil and gas facilities exploding in Ukraine, targeted by Russian missile attacks.
That oil facility right outside the capital of Kyiv. Steve Harrigan live on the ground there with the breaking update. Steve, what are you seeing there?
We are really hearing more than we're seeing at this point. There are artillery shells being fired in this capital city of Kiev. We're hearing an explosion about once every 2 minutes. Those shells are landing about 2 miles from where I'm standing. They're hitting the north and the west. So this city of 3 million is beginning.
Yeah, they've shown some destruction, but I haven't seen hardly any fighting.
It's not a barrage. One shell every 2 minutes or so, and usually you can see the black smoke go up after that hits. 3 million people live here. It's not sure what.
I saw some statistics, and it looks like people are
big explosions overnight,
and equipment are being killed and destroyed. But like I said, I haven't seen anybody die or much fighting.
The Russians, and you've got to wonder if that artillery is going to pick up to try and increase the pace to take over, try to take over the city. As you mentioned, war fighting in the second largest city in Ukraine, in Kharkiv. Some intense street battles there. Also, a gas pipeline blown up.
Pretty weird how we got to see nonsense on the big screen. All kinds of killing on TV and movies. And then we watch the news, and then we don't see any killing. It's really twisted morals that people have. It's pretty stupid and wrong for whoever's making these decisions to say that it's okay for us to watch fake killing, blood, guts, beheadings, body parts flying, blood, murder, all kinds of, you've seen the Saw movies, but when it comes to the news, the truth, reality, we're not allowed to see that. I don't agree with that.
He says he is very willing to join the Ukrainian fighting forces.
We are supporting Ukraine from here, and if there is any chance to join the army, we are ready right now.
It's not like I want to see it, but I want to know the truth. If they don't show it, I don't know if it is the truth.
People are trying to get into Poland. Romania. Families are screaming at the border. The men are staying back to fight.
I don't think much is going on because they're showing the same B-roll again and again. And this is rolling this out real slow this morning.
Your grandmother with Biden getting locked on.
It's funny, for the most of the rich, privileged people that are watching this station might feel bad for these people, but people that have struggled in their life, been homeless, fought adversity, been abused by police, been thrown in jail, didn't have enough money to eat, things like that. People leaving the country in vehicles, in a line is not exactly the end of the world.
Mike Tobin had a very interesting thing that he referenced in the beginning of his piece. It was this request by the Ukraine foreign minister. Basically, it seemed Jakarlian, man. Like, he was asking people from around the country to come to Ukraine, take up arms to help them out. Is that something that is really even possible with the rules that we have regarding NATO and all the other rules of engagement that are throughout our military?
Jeremy Hunt, Army veteran. Fantastic. It's really sad and pathetic that Republicans and Democrats can't come together right now and say the exact same things together. But they're just so divided, they can't do that. Because I think all Americans feel the same way. Pretty much everybody in the world feels the same way, that it's not right for somebody to get invaded by their neighbors. So they are saying some of the same things and doing it separately, and they've got some different solutions too, which is fine. It's good that we have lots of different ideas. Obviously, I think burning more gasoline and pouring more gasoline and oil out of the ground is a stupid idea. And it doesn't seem like any Republican politicians keep that in mind. They want, and some people are brazenly outspoken about it and how the U.S. should be pulling more oil out of the ground right now. The U.S. already burns more oil than anybody on Earth and pulls more oil out of the ground than anybody on Earth. The U.S. has 35 billion barrels of oil in reserves. I think the U.S. uses about 14 or 15 million gallons a day, and that makes them about 5 million barrels short right now per day. So I did the math, and if they pulled 5 million barrels out of the petroleum reserve every day, it would last for about 20 years. Did you get that? 35 billion barrels in reserves. It needs 5 million a day that it doesn't pull out of the ground. So I don't see why they don't take it from the reserves, at least for 10 years. Use half of it. If I'm not mistaken, the Democrats and the models are showing and saying that we should be off dirty energy in the coming years. It'll probably sync up pretty well. They could always pull more out if they want to. Although they should stop. They should stop immediately. They can't because they won't cut back on the usage, and they can't replace it with renewables yet because they haven't developed renewables like they should have been doing. And that's really the crux of the shortcomings of the government right now. And Republicans are a huge part of it because they're stuck in the past and they're connected to dirty energy and they're fucking dumb when it comes to clean energy. Every goddamn one of them wants to pollute the planet like there's no fucking tomorrow. Like they have no soul, no conscience, no accountability, no God as far as I'm concerned. But that's the weird thing. These morons actually think that there is a God and that God is okay with them constantly burning oil and pulling it out of the ground in extraordinary amounts. They think God's okay with all that. And that's one reason why I want nothing at all to do with these people.
Yeah. I want to ask you, what is life like for the people who are waiting in their cars, trying to get into Poland?
All of Congress should be ashamed right now that we're not on renewable energy. Under Donald Trump, they started importing millions of barrels of oil from Russia. And that's a huge export for them. And they make a lot of money on it. And it continued under the Biden administration. And I haven't heard them say they're stopping it. So, and they could get the oil from Saudi Arabia, from Brazil, from whoever else. A lot of other people. They could try to use it a little less. They could take it from the reserves. There's all sorts of options. So just what gross, detestable, belligerent people. And pretty crazy that everybody in the country isn't saying the exact same thing that I'm saying. But we should be on renewables by now. We should be all on batteries. We shouldn't be relying on Russian oil. We shouldn't be burning our own oil. This stuff is lubricant for the earth. We need to leave that in there. Pulling out the natural gas via fracking is terrible too. The fracking fluid is not organic and it will stay in the earth forever and contaminate it. And it causes earthquakes when they pull the gas out, the natural gas, the dead gas. So yeah, unfortunately, natural gas is not a solution. You'll hear about it, and you'll hear about the liquid natural gas, and but you don't get natural gas without fracking, as far as I know. They don't use organic fracking fluid, and it causes all kinds of earthquakes. They don't want to talk about that kind of stuff. I guess the good thing about it is it probably doesn't create as many carbon emissions as gasoline or coal. That's the upside. But it's still dirty, and we still got to stop using it. We should have stopped using it by now. Because it's all my spare time. Because you stole my spare time. No. I'm gonna burn I'm going to change it because these commercials are pretty fast. This is Unstoppable. I can't, I don't know, I didn't hear the song when it came out for some reason. I don't know why. I was listening to a lot of radio too. I heard it on a TV commercial the other day. So I got it. I'm like, well, she has a good voice. See ya. Oh, this one just stopped for some reason. It looks like your live video may contain music, audio, or video that belongs to somebody else. Oh my god. Resume. That's hilarious. See, they're trying to stop it. I told you that would happen. Unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. Unstoppable today.
Using their platform to speak out against war. A world-renowned Ukrainian.
So at least 3,000 Russians were arrested or detained for protesting the war in Russia. They were told that they weren't allowed to do that, and that it could affect them negatively in the future when trying to find a job or something. Pretty serious threat, if you ask me. But some countries apparently just don't have the right to protest. I heard recently in Canada, the truckers were in court and talking about the some amendment, and the judge goes like, "We don't have that amendment here," kind of thing. A painful reminder of the U.S. There's free speech laws and the right to protest and things, but that's not always the case in other countries.
First and foremost, thanks for having me on. The last couple of days,
American basketball player forced to flee Ukraine.
difficult to, just grasp everything and understand the severity of everything from the beginning. It went from 7 in the morning getting a text from my team and telling us to get your bags, pack the things, and let's go. So in that moment, I knew it was very serious. And from then on, that didn't end until I got back to Houston today, last night at 10 p.m. But from driving to Poland, the border, and everyone telling us that's not going to work, and then we ended up going to the Romanian border, and it was just sitting outside in traffic all day, and walking to the border, standing outside for 14 hours plus in the cold, freezing, and just the ambiguity of not knowing what to do, just not knowing if you're going to see your family again. It was very scary moment. But from there, we got out of there.
To that point, was there ever a time you thought you might get stuck there?
No, absolutely. When I was at the border for 14 hours, I definitely felt stuck, and not only the 14 hours, but, also the 5 other hours that I was driving to Romania border. It was just a very scary time.
Where do they get these people?
And, I know that
Do they just try to interview people that they don't have to pay any money to?
I'm praying and hoping.
Because there's veterans, just random veterans in 2 different branches of the government, of the military, I should say. One was Army, one was Marines, and now a basketball player. They're not saying if he's in the NBA or what it says he's a pro player. I don't hear why he's in Ukraine. See, Fox News supposedly has better ratings than all the other news stations, and part of it I think is because the channel's on so many TVs across the country. I think Fox News is one of the few news stations that's on the basic cable stations, if I'm not mistaken. And then CNN, MSNBC, those ones are on like a different tiered cable program network that you need to pay for. It doesn't always come with the standard package in some places. But then again, CNN's usually always playing in the airports. But sometimes they play Fox News too there. In the more conservative cities across the country, they will play Fox News in the airport or the laundromat or what have you. When I was in Coconut Grove, Florida, the laundromat there played Fox News. But to make a long story longer, Fox News may be suffering some losses, and they may be crunched financially as well. In fact, I'd be shocked if they aren't, because number one, their Twitter presence is real poor, and number two, everybody else is suffering on TV because people are going to all these other mediums. Podcasts are big for news, like Joe Rogan's podcast, and they use YouTube for news as well. I subscribe to probably 24 different news stations on YouTube, and so I get all kinds of headlines and stories there. Some of them are the major ones, national ones. Some are cities in the U.S. that focusing on certain regions and certain people. So yeah, Fox News is not hiring experts to give their testimonies and talk, and maybe something is wrong.
Absolutely great to have them back. If you're just waking up with us this Sunday morning, you're watching a special breaking news edition of Fox and Friends First. Ukrainian energy resources targeted by Russian missiles.
Fox would love to tap into the NBA because only 5% of black people voted for Trump, and NBA is primarily black, and so they're probably primarily Democrat. I recently heard this song called Run. I wasn't that familiar with it. This guy's got some pipes. I can sing as good as him, but I gotta bring my A game when I do it, or I won't. He's a good vocalist. He really hits these notes. Run, 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 run. Sun, run, run, run. Yeah. After the rising sun, Fun song. Quick. We're back. Oh, okay. That was an hour. Wow, that flew. All right, I'm out of here.
And I'll follow Jenkins, but the Pentagon said